Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about paragraph proofs. As a side note, I'd like to mention that if you haven't watched the videos I did on theorems before this one, you definitely might want to check those out because I'm going to be using some of those theorems. If you're already familiar with theorems and some popular geometry theorems, then you're good to go and this video will be perfect for you. Now, first let's go ahead and discuss a little what a proof is. In geometry, a lot of times we'll be given certain statements, certain facts about angles, segments, and they want us to use this given information to help prove another statement. And the way that we use the facts to prove a statement is by writing a proof. And there's different kinds of proofs. Today we're going to be talking about a paragraph proof. Now, paragraph proof is simply a proof that was written in the form of a paragraph. We'll get into some other proofs later, but first let's go ahead and let's start with this one. Okay, now there's definitely different ways that you can write a paragraph proof. There's different orders and the steps and the sentence order that you write it in. It's definitely based on what your logical thinking is, and there's definitely more than one way to prove something. Okay, and that's what kind of makes proofs complicated. I can solve it one way and prove it one way, but there's definitely probably another way that someone else might have written it or done it. Now, what I like to do when I'm working with paragraph proofs is to actually go ahead and try to solve it in my head first, or by writing down small notes and then going back and writing my actual paragraph. That's what I do sometimes. Now, most of the time these small notes are just me labeling what the given information is and sort of thinking out loud. So let's go ahead and let's read what the instructions are for this one. It says, write a paragraph proof. Now, here's our given information. Angle ABC is 114 degrees. What I like to do at first is to go ahead and label each piece of information they give me as it was given to me. So first thing they tell me is that angle ABC, so this angle that's kind of off to the side here, has the measurement of 114 degrees. Okay, awesome. I know that piece of information. Next, they tell me that the measurement of angle DHE, so DHE, this smaller angle here, is 25 degrees. So this angle right here is 25 degrees. Okay. Then they tell me measurement of angle EHF, so the one right next to the one we just labeled, EHF, that one is 41 degrees. So again, I'm going to go ahead and label that 41 degrees. Finally, they tell us that angles ABC, which is this angle, and GHF, which is this angle right here. So these two angles, the 114 and this angle that we don't know, we know that those are supplementary. Okay, which means that if you were to add them both up, you'd get 180. Okay, good to know. What they want us to prove is that angle DHF, which is this angle, they want us to prove that this angle is congruent with the angle it's adjacent to, that it's right next to. It wants us to prove that these two angles are congruent, meaning they have the same angle measurement. Now, as I mentioned before that you might want to check out theorem videos, the reason being is because right now I'm about to reference one. One big thing that I do in proofs is a lot of times proofs are named after what they're used for. So I like to look at the given information and what they want me to prove and to try to see, do any of these words coincide with any theorems that I know. So here I can see I have congruent angles, and they've given me that two angles are supplementary. So I'm trying to think in my head, is there any theorem that I know that's about congruency or supplementary angles? And there is one that I know, and it's called the congruent supplementary angle theorem. So I want to check to see, can I use that theorem for this problem? So let's see if there's any way that I can sort of use that theorem. That theorem essentially states if I have one angle, let's call it angle 1, that's congruent, that's supplementary with another angle, angle 2. So if I have two angles, and let's say angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary. And then I have a third angle. Let's call that angle 3. If angle 3 and angle 2 are also supplementary, meaning their angle measurements add up to 180. And if angle 1 and angle 2 are also supplementary, the congruent supplementary theorem allows me to state that angle 1 and angle 3 are congruent. Nice. So really, they want me to prove these two angles, DHF and GHF, are congruent. So if I can prove that angle DHF is supplementary to angle ABC, because they gave me the information that ABC and GHF are supplementary, I would then be able to say that DHF and HGF are in fact congruent. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is, if I can prove that this angle is supplementary to this one, then I can use the congruent supplementary theorem to prove that these two angles are congruent because they are both supplementary to the same angle, which is angle ABC. So in order to prove that DHF is supplementary, I have to prove that 114 plus the measurement of this angle DHF is 180. So the first step in solving this, I have to find what is the measurement of this angle DHF. Well, since I have the two smaller angles inside it, I can use what we call the angle addition postulate, which, to be honest, sounds a little bit more complicated than what it is. It essentially states that if you have an angle, if I know the two smaller angles inside it, I can add them up and get the whole angle, which is exactly what I have here. I have this whole angle, and I have this two smaller measurements of the two angles that are inside it. So let's go ahead and add those up to get what that whole angle is. 41 plus 25 is nothing but 66. Now if 66 plus 114 turns out to be 180, these two are going to be supplementary angles. So let's check. 114 plus 66. It is in fact 180, which means angle ABC and DHF are supplementary angles, which means I can use the congruent supplementary theorem to say that DHF and GHF are congruent. So let's go ahead and write this out in a paragraph in the steps that we did it essentially. The first thing I did was I went ahead and added 25 and 41 and got 66 degrees. So let's go ahead and describe that. A lot of times we start off sentences with the word by in geometry. By the angle addition postulate. Again, this just meant I can add two smaller angles inside an angle to get the whole angle. By the angle addition postulate. And I apologize if I misspell any words as I'm doing this. I knew that the measurement of angle DHF was simply 25 degrees plus 41 degrees, which equaled 66 degrees. Okay? Now, we proved that it was supplementary to angle ABC by simply using the definition of what a supplementary angle is, which states if you have two angles that add up to 180, they're supplementary. So then we could say that by the definition of supplementary angles, we know angle DHF is supplementary to angle ABC. So we know these two angles are supplementary. The last thing, since angle, we'll just write the angle symbol, angle GHF, since this one is also supplementary, to angle ABC, we can say that by the congruent supplementary theorem, by the congruent supplementary theorem, we can say by the congruent supplementary theorem, that's our theorem, that, we'll just do comma, we know that by the congruent supplementary theorem that angle DHF, looks like an E, GHF is congruent, meaning it has the same measurement as angle GHF. And that would be the end of our paragraph proof because it ends with what they wanted us to prove. Okay? There's definitely more than one way to solve this. You could have found a different way to solve this, but we want to get into the practice of using theorems because as we get into more complex proofs, theorems help us out quite a bit. There are other logical approaches you could have taken. There's actually a way for you to find the measurement of angle GHF. Okay, I won't tell you how, but there is another way to find that angle measurement, and then you can compare the two and say they're congruent because you know the measurement of both of them is technically 66 degrees. Okay, so that's another route you could have taken. So I hope this sort of example on how to write a paragraph proof has helped you, if anything, just to realize what a paragraph proof is. It's a proof written in the form of a paragraph. Now, depending on how you're thinking and what your logic is, this paragraph could be written in a different order. It's not the best paragraph. It's not the most perfect paragraph. There's nothing wrong with my paragraph that says yours is wrong if you wrote a different one. These are very different, and there's not exactly one simple correct answer. There's multiple ways to write these, and I want you to keep that in mind. The next thing I'd recommend for you to do is to watch this next video on two-column proofs, which is a different type of proof, and actually the one that I prefer because I don't like writing sentences that much, and the two-column proof is a lot less words. So I hope you check out, and as always, just thanks for watching.